Princess Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, is battling the BBC. So he's giving evidence about claims that the broadcaster is concealing a cover-up. The BBC? Conceal a cover-up? No. In securing the sensational Martin Bashir Panorama interview with the late princess. So according to The Times, the BBC is being accused of failing to release details under a Freedom of Information request, and that is relating to how it handled the scandal when that scandal emerged in 2020. Interesting that. You remember Bashir claiming that he had some kind of heart trouble and then he was pictured picking up a whopping great big Indian takeaway, which is unfortunate for the chap, wasn't it? But Royal Correspondent Michael Cole joins us now. Michael, thank you very much. So Earl Spencer's chomping at the bit to stick it to the Beeb over the Diana scandal, isn't he? What's going on?
Before he was the ninth Earl Spencer, Charles Spencer was a quite effective reporter for NBC, the American network. He knows his way around the media, and he says and accuses the BBC of telling agonizing lies and contributing to his beloved late sister's sense of paranoia, fear, and isolation. And he says, Charles, and there we see him at Althorpe, his stately home, he wants the BBC prosecuted. He says there's been a cover-up over the years, and he wants to see the 3,000 withheld memos, which he thinks will reveal the complex arrangements that were made to keep this under wraps. And I think it's quite interesting. I mean, you mentioned, and we saw the picture of Martin Bashir. Well, who is never mentioned or rarely mentioned is Steve Hewlett, the late Steve Hewlett. He was the editor of Panorama, and he went with Bashir, and he helped persuade Diana to do this interview. And he later, after his death, was honoured with a posthumous BAFTA, and there are scholarships in his name for good journalism given by the Royal Television Society. Now, Steve Hewlett defended that Panorama programme against all comers and vociferously. Now, this, as you say, it's a long, long time ago, but it is still a very expensive piece of chewing gum that's got stuck to the BBC tennis shoe and they can't get it off. And when I say expensive, they've had to pay damages to 3 people, Tiggy Legg Burke, who was the Wales's nanny, to Philip Jeffson, who was the private secretary of the princess, and to Lord Spencer's head of security, Alan Waller. And Lord Spencer says quite bluntly that the BBC told lies about it and said that he, Lord Spencer, had given to Panorama false bank statements of Waller, which of course was demonstrably untrue. The BBC has apologised for this abjectly, and Lord Dyson carried out an inquiry, and he roundly accused the corporation of deceit. But now Lord Spencer says, not unreasonably, let's find out the whole of it. Let's find out what really went on.
And how did this in any way contribute, or could it be seen to have contributed towards the situation or the circumstances that led up to Diana's death?
Well, I think Prince William said it all. He said it made the marriage, they were only separated at the time, 1995 November. I remember it very well. The Prince and Princess of Wales were only separated, but that was the final curtain. And after that, Her Majesty the Queen said to Prince Charles, it's got to be a divorce. So that set in train everything that happened thereafter. So I think, Diana and her brother Charles, who were the youngest of the family, there were 2 older sisters, they were extremely close as children, extremely close, and they deeply loved each other. And I think Charles Spencer is to be commended for going into battle for his sister, even all these years later. And I can't see why, having gone the route of hangout route of saying, yes, we're responsible, we apologise, I think they should make a clean breast of it, because people who were there at the time have all moved on or been moved aside.
Or dead, or they're dead. You know, this is what I don't get. You know, I mean, why don't they just come clean about the whole thing, if indeed there is anything to come clean about? You know.